Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show. It's a Thursday. We call them Conspiracy Theory Thursday, and maybe I haven't yet figured out the conspiracy that explains why, when President Obama said that it was illegal for him to do what he then did about 12 months later, back when Obama was president, and he signed an executive memo that created the Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals, rather than changing the law or rather than a court decision, he just signed his name to a piece of paper. And now that has become the Trump administration's job, and Donald Trump has said we should enforce the law, and he invited the Congress to change the law to make a different situation for the DACA folks. Because I don't want to call it a law because it's not a law, and too many reporters call it a law. I've invited Dale Wilcox on, who's executive director of the Immigration Reform Law Institute. Dale, welcome back to the program. And how is it, if I've understood this correctly, that the Supreme Court has decided that a current president cannot get rid of a signed executive memo from a previous president that actually is not a change in the law, in the same way that the previous president put it into administrative rules? Why is it that one president can put it in that way, but another president can't just take it out just as simply?
Yeah, it's quite disturbing. The irony is really thick here. And in fact, Justice Thomas wrote a great dissent in this case. And he pointed that out to the majority. He said the majority's demanding review of DHS's decision-making process is especially perverse, given that the 2012 memorandum flouted the Administrative Procedure Act's procedural requirements. It absolutely makes no sense. I mean, what the Supreme Court decided today was that it really didn't decide that DACA is legal.
Nope.
What it decided was that President Trump, the Trump administration's way of going about rescinding DACA was unlawful. So they didn't follow the Administrative Procedure Act. They didn't give sufficient reasons why they wanted to rescind DACA. Everyone agrees, the majority even stated, everyone agrees they can rescind it. We just don't feel that they gave enough sufficient reasons to rescind it.
Dale, you're the legal expert, so correct me if I'm wrong. I want to give people a metaphor to understand what administrative rules are, because you have to have them. I mean, I'm a hunter, so we have a Federal Fish and Wildlife Division, agency. The Congress creates a law that creates the agency, but the Congress doesn't sit there and figure out what day hunting season starts on or what kind of barbless hooks you have to use to go fishing in Montana. They leave all that stuff up to the agencies to determine, and that's true of all the agencies. I just use Fish and Wildlife because I like hunting. And so you wouldn't want the Congress to be down deciding how big the shot can be in your shotgun, or whether you have to fly fish rather than bait fish when you're going fishing under federal Fish and Wildlife rules. The agency writes all those rules. But as you say, there is a process for writing the rules. Obama didn't bother to follow the process to get DACA approved as an administrative rule. So why should it matter how the next president removes it from the books?
Oh, I absolutely agree. Your analogy is spot on. The Obama administration did not follow what's called notice and comment. They instituted a rule. They engaged in rulemaking. And so under the Administrative Procedure Act, the APA, they are required to issue notice that they're doing the rulemaking and solicit comments from the public. They absolutely skipped that step. So they instituted DACA through a policy memorandum. Well, the Trump administration did the same. We're rescinding DACA through a policy memorandum. It's done. And, of course, the opposition went crying and screaming to court and got injunctions, and here we are up in the Supreme Court. And sadly, Roberts did it to us again, voted with the 4 liberals, and the opinion throws this case back down to DHS to start over again. So it's not over. DHS can come out tomorrow with a more detailed explanation of why they are rescinding DACA. And there's also hope. There is another case that has been percolating for a couple of years down in the Southern District of Texas, and it is attacking DACA directly. whether DACA is legal. And this particular court, if you remember, Judge Hainan, he's the one that struck down Obama's attempt at passing or instituting DAPA, which would have legalized the parents of citizens and legal permanent residents who are in the country unlawfully. Well, Judge Hainan struck that down. It was upheld by the Fifth Circuit. It went up to the Supreme Court. Sadly, Scalia died right before the opinion came out, and the Fifth Circuit opinion was upheld 4-4. So Roberts voted with the conservatives in that case. So when, even though Roberts betrayed us here today, in this case, I believe that if the legality of DACA was at issue, Roberts would vote the right way. So
well, and the other thing is, you know, Roberts said we've failed to consider the hardships that this would put on people. But, you know, Dale, I'm not a lawyer, thank God. But when you look at this and you have the Supreme Court saying, well, if you tell all these people who are illegally in the country, you know, the laws that are on the books say they're illegally here. Obama writes a memo saying, no, they can stay, without going to the Congress and saying, will you change the law so they can stay legally? So he excuses them from following the law. I mean, I'd like to know which laws I get to break if I want to. Some laws are kind of inconvenient, but I follow them. So the Supreme Court Chief Justice says, but if you make these people follow the law, some of them have been here for years, they've got jobs, they've got families, they've got houses, they've got all kinds of kids and everything else, it'll be really inconvenient. Isn't it inconvenient anytime we catch people who are breaking the law and make them stop breaking the law? I would imagine every drug dealer, every bank robber, every embezzler, Bernie Madoff. It was incredibly inconvenient to Bernie Madoff when they ended his Ponzi scheme. I mean, it's like John Roberts wants to say, well, you can't create an inconvenience for somebody who's just breaking the law. That's so crazy. I can't even wrap my head around it.
Yeah, the Chief Justice said that DHS needed to consider the reliance interest that the DACA recipients, they had relied on this program, and it's not fair just to rip it out from underneath of them without giving good reasons for, analyzing that reliance interest. Number one, Napolitano's memorandum from 2012 that created DACA expressly states in there, this creates no right or interest in the recipient, okay? So they don't have a reliance interest. In the very memorandum that created DACA, it's clearly stated, don't rely on this, we can take it away at any time. Number two, this is an illegal program, and as the dissent in this case today pointed out, you cannot instruct DHS to go ahead and continue to implement an illegal program. The program itself is illegal. The way it was implemented is illegal. Procedurally, they didn't follow the APA and notice and comment. Substantively, the INA, or immigration law, does not allow for this. DHS just can't willy-nilly decide we're going to legalize a whole group of people. No, Congress only can do that. So absolutely, Obama overstepped his bounds. No way that DHS has to analyze the reliance interests of these people. That has nothing to do. Is the thing legal? If it's not legal, it has to be struck down.
Yep.
DHS cannot implement an illegal program.
You know what I wish, Dale? I really wish in my heart of hearts, maybe it's not politically smart, I wish the president, he promised nationwide reciprocity for one of my other favorite issues so that everybody who's got a concealed carry permit in every state in America can use it across state lines the same way you can use your driver's license across state lines. I wish Trump would have his folks draft a memo saying, here's an executive memo, I'm going to implement nationwide concealed carry reciprocity across the country through executive memo, because John Roberts just said you can implement it. And then once I'm not president anymore in 4.5 years, we will have relied on it for so many years, the Supreme Court cannot take it back away from people. And I'd love to see how the liberals would react to that idea, because that idea actually has some popular support. Dale Wilcox is executive director at the Immigration Reform Law Institute. We'll be back in just a moment. You've got the Lars Larson Show.